I gotta tell somebody.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
You need this. Listen to this.
Memorable and exciting.
Well, then be less boring.
I'm going to tell everyone. Wait here.
Mighty remarkable, Big Daddy.
Remarkable.
Welcome to Remarkable, a podcast for B2B marketers that deconstructs the most iconic moments in film, television, pop culture, and advertising for a single purpose: to give you, the B2B marketer, the same storytelling techniques that the pros use. In each episode, you will learn techniques from Hollywood, Pixar, Marvel, and beyond, from Spielberg's hands to yours, bringing remarkable content ideas to you every single week. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. This is Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from the restoration of a French farmhouse, which sounds like the great title of a movie, but it's not. It is a real French farmhouse with the help of our special guest, Chief Marketing and Chief Partner Officer, Contentsquare. JC, how are you?
I'm really good. Nice to see you again, Ian.
Yeah, great to see you again. We did our other podcast, Pipeline Visionaries, together, and it's super fun to have you on Remarkable. And we're going to chat all about this French farmhouse. So why the heck did you pick restoring your French farmhouse to talk about today?
Well, first, as you can imagine, it's a passion of me, restoration, renovation, because I can tell, it's about both blending the old with the new. And if you think about marketing and my job as a CMO, it's kind of the same. If you want, I can talk a little bit in a couple of words about the farmhouse, but it's 1 hour west of Paris, close to Normandy, on the way to Normandy, so not too far from Paris. I can go there. I'm based in Paris. It's 250 years old. So I think it's older than the United States, or close to same age as the United States Constitution. And I've been restoring it for 5 years now. And it's blending, as I said, the old and the new. I'm right. It's old stones. Like you can imagine, it's not a French castle, but kind of, it looks old, like a French castle. It's a farmhouse. And I'm wiring it with solar panels, heat pumps, and Wi-Fi, and so on, for my kids especially. But at the end of the day, it's still a very old farmhouse. So yes, that's what I like about it, and that's why I picked it. And marketing is the same. I know we're going to talk about it, but there's a lot of parallels between both projects.
I love that. That's great. And zooming out, tell us about Contentsquare. By the way, I do have to say before we get into this, I'm jumping on my own question here. Hotjar, which is a Contentsquare company, was one of the first experiences that I had with what I'll just say is like quote unquote modern marketing, modern digital marketing. I remember when I demoed Hotjar, I don't know, whatever, probably 10 years ago. And I just was like blown away. I'm just like, it was just one of those things where I'm like, you can track that people are coming to your website and like, scooting around your website, and there's like where they're clicking and heat maps and all this stuff. And I just remember it was so mind blowing to me.
Oh, it's amazing. I didn't know you were a fan and first user. I think you already pitched Contentsquare. I don't have anything else to add.
That's right. But yeah, so tell us what it means to be CMO at Contentsquare.
Yeah, basically, and as you said, I joined Contentsquare 2 years ago. I spent 23 years, a long time at Microsoft. I want to mention it because I was on the West Coast in Seattle, so working in big tech. And I joined a more medium-sized tech, French-based. As you said, Contentsquare, Hotjar is a brand, we're basically, as you said, the world, I call it, the world digital experience, ultrasound or X-ray. Basically, we analyze trillions of interactions on website, mobile apps, crowd clicks, rich clicks, everything you said. And we turn all this data, or you can say chaos, into insights. So you as a customer, you can improve retention, conversion, your website, or so basically, yes, that's what we do. And being CMO, of course, I cover CMO and partners, but I cover from, how do we generate demand? How do we expand our partner ecosystem? How do we get a customer feedback loop on? I also own pricing and monetization, which is very important in the SaaS business. So yes, that's about me and Contentsquare very quickly.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Yeah, it's just such a cool story and such a cool company, and Heap is a company, as well. We've interviewed CMO Heap back in the day, so yeah, just a lot of cool stuff that y'all are doing. And digital experience is just more important than ever. So yeah, let's get back to French farmhouses for a second. Meredith, you are not restoring a French farmhouse, but you are restoring your own house, which you recently just bought. And so I'm curious, like coming into your experience, restoring something new, like what has been your thought process going into it?
My thought process has been, well, so we just moved in, JC, we just moved into a 1930s old house. It is on
Nice.
old farmland. It's probably not as old as your chateau, beautiful chateau.
Nice.
But yeah, I think part of it is we want to choose things during the restoration that is suited to the time period. So like we like old things, we like things that have a history. We want it to feel good in the space. And so that's sort of been something that I've been considering as we like make the house our own. Have you been also, so you mentioned like putting in Wi-Fi, solar panels, that sort of thing to make it feel, to have modern amenities in a way, but how are you also balancing that with, making it suit the time period as well? Are you wanting it to be sort of your restoration to be of that time period?
No, it's a great question. It's a balance. I'm trying to keep the heritage. Do you say heritage or the tradition,
Yes.
as you said? Look and feel, especially, but trying to stay true. But then you need to modernize it to make it, you want it to be a good place, for your friends or to have parties, your family to spend time with you. So it needs to be a bit modern comfort. Like I said, Wi-Fi, bathrooms have to be modern. You can't stay it's not typical. So it's a balance of both. But yes, you try to stay true to the house. I had architects who came initially and they wanted to put glasses everywhere, tear down some big stone walls, and I'm like, guys, this house has had oak beams for 250 years. I'm not going to tear them down. I'm going to keep them. They've been like,
Yes.
they're old. So please, let's keep them around. But then I put some modern stuff next to it. So.
That's so cool.
In the Bay Area, there's a lot of older houses. Again, not 250 years old. I don't know what's older, the Statue of Liberty or your farmhouse. It's like they're probably like equivalent. They're peers, they're sisters. But in the Bay Area, there's a lot of houses that are Victorians from the 1800s, and like the house that I grew up was like 1920, something like that. My house that I live in now is like a newer house built in the 60s, which is so funny. But again. I think
if you get into renovation, I think in the US, West Coast, most of the houses are in woods, right? I think the foundations are stone or concrete, but I think usually the roofs are in woods or something. No, correct?
It totally depends. So like, it totally depends. And that's sort of like what I was getting at is like, what's so funny. So I live in a neighborhood that's next to this neighborhood. That's this very famous architect named Eichler built all these like Eichler. So they're like a very, very, very specific type of house. They're like a block away from me. Anyways, and so there's constantly, people are buying and selling them and trying to keep that sort of original flair, but it's like very 70s looking. There's like wood walls and like stuff like that. Whereas like where I grew up, there was a lot of like craftsman homes that were built in like the 1920s, and there's just like beautifully ornate stuff. So anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is like I've been to a lot of houses. Bay Area, real estate, very expensive. And so like when I was looking to buy our house, there are so many houses where people would just like the way that you'd build a house in 1920 with like all of this sort of like love and care and craftsmanship was all great, except the bedrooms were tiny and the closets are tiny because like people didn't have stuff, like they had like 3 pairs of clothes. Like what do they need a huge closet for? And so function often, made way by way of fashion sort of going out. But a lot of these, like remodels where they would just take, they take a beautiful Victorian or they take a craftsman, and then they just completely gut the interior. And then it just looks like some like modern thing that like you walk in the doors and you're like, this doesn't, one of the ones that I was in, they were like, we were going for like a flat in New York, like, and you're like, and you walk in, you're like, this is awful. Like this looks, it looks nice, but you're like, you had a house that was built in the 1800s and like now it looks like a New York.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense. And to each their own, right? I'm not here to yuck another man's yum, as they say, but the idea of like, there are trade-offs here. And I'm curious, like, how did you think about the trade-offs for you, JC, of like keeping versus, function versus fashion?
No, I did. It's a great question. Enough to say, you start with a dream and then very quickly you have the spreadsheet. I don't know, that brings you back to earth. And, you picture this house, as we talked about, a blend of modern and historical, and then you look at budget, timing, talking about trade-offs. It's like and you're like, oh, okay, maybe the fancy, new windows are fancy. I don't know if you know La Cornue. It's a stove. It's a very famous high-end French luxury brand for stoves. It's beautiful. It's like the entry-level price is $40,000. And you're like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to start with the stove. It will look great. It's probably not the first thing I will do. So to your point, long story, but yeah, you quickly get into, the trade-off. It's like product marketing, perfect product. It's a blend of every other features, capabilities I want, what's cost or resources I have to develop it, and the budget and timing. So you have to work on this trade-off. But I would say, for me, you start with this North Star vision and then you prioritize, you balance your ambitions. I think also I'm an engineer at heart, which is interestingly with my wife. She's going to be okay if I say that. It's a bit of cliche, but I need to start with the foundations, foundations, heating, kitchen, plumbing, all the not unsexy stuff. And because it's important for me. And then you can do also decoration, which I care a lot about. But you have interesting discussion with my wife because she was already getting into the colors of the guest room or the kids' room. So you have the internal trade-off discussion, which are happening also in your family.
Yeah, the fact that it starts with a dream and sort of ends up in a spreadsheet is absolutely hilarious. That we might have to pull that quote. That's so good. But it is though, right? I redid my house when we bought it. Or I didn't redo it. I did some, stuff internally, knock down a wall here and there, whatever. And so how did you like score or like rate the things that were, that build, that have the heritage, the stuff that you're like, oh, this has to stay,
It's an interesting question. Again, it's heart and science, but I would say that's the heart talking. You try to think what's unique about the house. And then I said, a French farmhouse, you're going to get me passionate about it. But it has 1 meter thick stone walls. And it's like 3 feet. 3 feet. And that's just the walls, outside walls, because they didn't have, steel and concrete. So the walls are super thick. So you say, okay, I'm going to keep the walls are beautiful. They're in stones. But so that I need to keep. I talked about the oak beam. So you try to identify what is really unique. The floor and with the oak, how do you call it? The oak floor and so on. So that's stuff which is unique. And then you list it. And then, basically like you do at work. You say, I'm going to keep that and everything else, I'm going to remodel and you work on the floor and so on. But we listed what we didn't want to touch and everything else we started to renovate. But again, trying to balance both.
Yeah. So, okay. So your wall, so you're saying you have stone walls that are 3 feet thick?
Yes. I'm not kidding. I'm not really kidding. And so you can imagine when you have the guy who's coming to put a pipe into it for a heating system. It's like, it's going to take me, I don't even have the drill to go for it, So he has to buy a specific drill. So he can drill for a 1 meter, 3 feet.
No kidding. So that's crazy. That is one of the crazy things about every house, like truly is different, especially like older houses. And then you start to sort of peel back certain things and you're like, they didn't make it for it to be edited later. You know what I mean? Like this was made to be like this forever. They didn't anticipate that you would need Wi-Fi or paneling.
Technical constraints. You get very creative, and it also gives you freedom. Let me explain. The fact we have these 3 super thick walls. At the end of the day, it's also an opportunity because when I want to open so thick, when I want to open a window, beautiful modern window into it. Then, it's so thick that, okay, it's difficult, but then you don't need to do a lot of structural work because the house can support having a big opening and not collapse. So, so it gives you it gives you some freedom too. And it's a bit like at work, sometimes the best projects, they come with marketing when you have constraints, either a location constraint or timing or budget. You get very creative to work around the constraints here.
Yeah, I was wondering if you can share an example of when a constraint has made for just an incredibly creative project, whether that's with the farmhouse or in marketing.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to try to say that I don't have all the technical words in English, but I'm going to try. There is one of the room is so high, it's like 5-6 meters high, which is you have in the. It was made of 4 very small rooms. So we decided to tear down of the 4. There was 1 floor, 2 floors, 4 small rooms. We tore down everything, and then we built a beautiful. In steel, a beautiful stair, in steel with stairs and glass. And, the fact, it was so high, the fact it could not, there was nothing else we could do in that space. We had to build this beautiful, modern, infrastructure. And it gives something beautiful, modern and old at the same time. And if we had had a stair with a standard floor, blah, blah, we would have never thought of tearing down, everything and rebuilding something very modern. I don't know if it makes sense. If I've been clear, it's a good story, but
yeah. So there's like high vaulted ceilings or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's like a huge. I'm literally looking at a photo of. I just happened to be looking at a photo of a French farmhouse that has huge vaulted ceilings. So I think I know what you're talking about. And then so it's like huge vaulted ceilings with like you said, it's oak beams on the top.
Yes. And so you can't touch anything, but I still wanted to create, another stair and another floor. And so we created this beautiful structure with a steel and a window, not windows, glass, and a glass panel you can walk on. So it's a blend of, very old and very modern. And we had and we could not touch anything around the structure, the main structure.
Okay, so to recap, when did you start this process, and how big is the house too? How big is the house? When did you start this process, and how far into it are we?
I started in 2020, so it's been 5 years. I'm in phase 3. Each phase takes me 2 years, design, delivery, and then you move on to the next phase. I would say how big. It's a farm, so you have multiple buildings, and some of them. So you start with one, which was a main building where you live, and then you start to expand because you have a building for the cows, for the pigs. You can still see for the horses. So you can still see some of the equipment, and sometimes very old. Sometimes some of the accessories are like 250 years old too. So that's why it's pretty unique. And then you go building floor by floor. I would say the house, if you include everything, it's probably more than 15,000 square feet. But again, it's not I'm not going to do everything. I don't need such a huge house, with a bathroom and houses, but you try to keep the spirit. And I do it stage by stage, yes.
Yeah. And what was the most important stuff for you in phase 1?
It's like customer experience in marketing, make the living room, the main rooms, living room, family rooms, TV room, where you live with your family, make it the most livable. It's like a big customer experience, on a website. You want to remove the frictions. You want to have flows. And so the most important things like, I want some place where we all feel good. And redoing the kitchen also was very important. Yeah, of course, we're in France, cuisine and dinners matter. So that's important. So yes, I worked on the core rooms at the beginning. It was, you had bedrooms, bathrooms everywhere, different floors, plenty of stairs. So just trying to make it, only 1 or 2 levels and much more easy to walk around was number 1 priority. So my family will spend time with me.
Yeah.
I will not be alone in my old farmhouse being renovated.
And then how bad of shape was it in the beginning?
Pretty, I would say half of it, probably like it was 250 years old. So it's just like walls, straw, mud and bricks, so you can't live in it. And as I said, a couple of years ago, not years, but a dozen of 10, 15, 20 years ago, you had animals, in it. Mm-hmm. And some of it was okay, but very old style decoration, So not very modern, not someone who has lived in Seattle on the West Coast or Paris. You're like, I can't stay within it. So
yeah,
it was both.
How did you find the right people to work on it? Because I assume that you can't just be like a everyday like carpenter or whatever. I don't know. Do you have to find specialists, folks who specialize?
It's like at work, you need that probably you have the dream and vision, the North Star, but then you need to get the right people to work with you. When you start a new job at marketing at Contentsquare, I wanted to make sure I had the right talents in product marketing dimension. It's same here. You want to do word of mouth, so you talk to your neighbors, you talk to the mayor, and you ask, you want people who have been working in other similar, houses or castles around the area, and then you want good people, you want good talent, you have to be okay to pay for it. So as always, talent is not cheap usually, and then it works. But when you have good, it's funny. I never thought about it. But it's like at work. If you have good talent, they're happy. You pay them on time. You give them rewards. They're happy to do great work, especially on old houses. As you said, it's much more fun for these guys to work on an old house than modern stuff.
So it seems like the lesson is go talk to the mayor, ask him if they know anyone who's worked on castles, and then that's how you find the best talent.
That's how you do it.
But it's the same at work. What do you say? You start in a new job or talents or new city. You ask for colleagues or CEO or to talents or people I should pick to run this project.
So why did it matter to you to keep any of the heritage? At the end of the day, 250 years ago, some humans were living here, some French people were living here, and it was literally just a farm. They probably didn't care about the wood beams or the stone or any of that sort of stuff. They were just like, we need to feed the pigs and and take the horse out.
Correct.
Why preserve any of this? Does it matter?
Yes, it does matter a lot for me. I think history is part of who we are, human beings, and so I think understanding how they live, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. It has such charm. Do you say charm? Yeah, it's charming. It's beautiful. When you go there, you say, again, it's a blend of modern and old, and you want to have both. It's just beautiful. You feel good. It's different too. A bit. You want to be different. It's a bit unique. It's beautiful. Again, it's like a brand. Think about marketing. When you think about brand, you want something about unique, differentiated, one can relate to, which is also beautiful. And it's the same with the house. And in fact, I can see also some people that love that super modern house with designed by architect. It's beautiful too. It's a different flair, but for me, it's more the old and new together.
Yeah, to me, I really like old buildings. I just like the shared history and the humanity of it. I just like to know that 250 years ago, there was, probably a couple whose baby was screaming, and just like my baby is screaming, and they were like, "Gosh, what do we give this kid? Why are they crying so much?" And that they had to go out and deal with the pig slop or whatever it is. There's just something comforting, I think, to me about sort of the human condition, and that we are really unchanged for thousands and thousands of years. And I think that that's pretty cool. And I think it's just a little grounding too, that even with, Wi-Fi and solar panels and all those sort of things, that four walls sitting on a piece of dirt, being warm at night, having a full belly is the extent of the human condition, such that we can go do all the things that make us happy.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. You're right. I think you asked a good question. Why I love it. I think I've been an expat. I worked a lot in Seattle, Singapore, Paris, London. So I didn't really have a family house, a house for my family and my kids, because I've been moving around. And I think, to your point, knowing this house was a family house, has been for so many families, there is something about, okay, that's going to be my family house going forward, And the kids, my family really loved it, So I think, you're right. There is something, the history here, talking to you a little bit or looking at you. But it's funny what you said, because when I joined, my neighbor is 87-year-old. He has been living in this old French village for 87 years, which, when you've been working, across the world. It's such a different lifestyle, but the guy is great. He came, he said, hey, you know what? I'm married. I met my wife. She died. I met my wife in your house, and she was born in your house. I met and married with her 60 years ago. And he had picture of the house, like it was 60 years ago. He had a couple of pictures of it on black and white pictures on paper. And he showed me the house, interior of the house, like it was 60 years ago, and where he met his wife, who was born in his house. So, you have these stories, which is a true story, by the way. I'm not making it up, which give a lot of cachet, authenticity to the place.
Yeah, that's so cool. When we bought our house from the original owners, and their kids who are in their 60s were the ones who were selling the house to us, because their parents had it. And my house is on this cul-de-sac, and it's like the biggest cul-de-sac you've ever seen in your life. It's like huge. And so apparently they were like, originally in the 60s when they built this community, this was going to be like a community pool, and they were going to put a community pool here. So they made this huge space, and they ended up not doing the pool there and doing it somewhere else. So they had this huge space. So they made this huge cul-de-sac, and they were like, we learned to ride our bikes in the cul-de-sac. Like every kid in the neighborhood learns to ride their bikes in the cul-de-sac. And it's like, it's like the cul-de-sac where my kid and our neighbors ride their bikes. And it's like just a piece of dirt. I'm not even a piece of concrete. And it's just like that shared history and the shared memories and those sort of things, like, and the storytelling of the stories that and the stories that you don't know, all the skin knees, or, whatever, the first time that guy kissed his wife or whatever, like that's it's pretty incredible to be in a place that's special like that. And I really identify with you in terms of like building, that family home, and like being at the point in your life where you want to just like tinker with it and like work on that and build something that's like lasting and enduring. And I think especially in marketing, where so much of what we do sort of is extremely creative, but also a bit, vanishing, where it's like working with something physical and doing something physical also is like an outlet for creativity.
Oh, so true. Very well said.
All right, let's get into some marketing takeaways here. Marketing lessons from restoring a French farmhouse. What do you got for us, JC?
We talked about the trade-offs. I think the flow, we talked a little bit about the flow, the friction-free, like, at Contentsquare, we work on building friction-free experiences. I think your house, that's another one. It does matter. It's an unsung hero. If we've talked a lot about it in the funnels, but as you remove frictions, in your purchase process, you get more customers, happier, and so on. I think the same for the house. The flow needs thought well. The design has to be livable. So I think that's another one, I think, which is very close to marketing. I was thinking about also when anything, everything has to connect, meaning, the house, the roof, decoration, the plumbing, all of that is interconnected. And it's a bit like your marketing strategy, You need to connect the cross-channel, web, app store, social, every touch point. That's what I was looking for. Every touch point, I think, matters. And I think in both in marketing, in the house, that's what I love both. When I was thinking about it, I was like, there's so many good parallels.
Every touch point matters. Like, and obviously, you're a customer experience company, so you really obsess over the product and making sure every touch point matters. But it really does. Like, and it's so funny, like when you restore a house in any way, it's the littlest things that you notice that nobody would ever notice, but it's like the thresholds. You're like, yes, we got the cheap threshold, and it's like this stupid threshold I trip on all the time. And if we had gone for the expensive one, I could walk into this, seamlessly. Or like my son this morning, he goes, we have two like pocket doors, where you like, it slides out from like the inside of the wall. And he looks at one of them and he goes, this is like the one in the toy room. And I'm like, first of all, it's not the toy room, it's the living room. All your toys are there. Anyways. And I'm like, and it like in my mind, I was like, we bought that cheap pocket door in the living room, my son's toy room, apparently. And I'm like, gosh, we should have never done that. We should have got the more expensive one. It would have been like $200 more, and I would have had a nice pocket door that doesn't feel like it's like made out of paper mache. And it's so funny because it is such a great marketing lesson where you're like, if you cheap out in like one section, it's like the whole thing breaks down super fast because they're like, we had this great marketing campaign and they landed on the page and they were fed the right content and they reached out to sales. And then, sales didn't respond to them for 48 hours. And you're like, what?
No, it is so true. I think what you said is very true. I think you said that buy cheap, buy twice. I think that's what
happens.
Happens to you. It's so true in renovation, but some in marketing, don't be cheap on what's customer value, customers are going to see on the customer experience journey. And you would be surprised at Contentsquare, if I go a little bit on marketing, we are a customer experience analytics. We still see 40% of the customer journeys are frustrating. And that's what we get. We have billions, we monitor billions, trillions of interactions. And frustrating means it's too slow. There are bugs, you get bad pop-ups, cookie, you have to reload the page. It's still 40%. So we have been throwing marketing dollars, money, consulting at building right website, and still 40% of these are identified as frustrating. So there's still a lot of work we can do.
Oh, there's so much work. And it's, one of the reasons why I decided to chat about you and chat about this topic, because I mean, it's mind-blowing how many times you go to a website and you're just trying to do something so basic and they're going to try to prevent you at all costs. The one that I always rail on this, and it drives me absolutely bonkers, is when they give you to a sales rep to qualify you. They take a call with you, take 15 minutes of my day as the CEO of a little tiny company, and take 15 minutes. They're like, okay, I'll pass you on to the account rep. I'm like, you don't need to do that. I'm not using, even if you're the number one in the magic quadrant, I'm not choosing you now because you just wasted 15 minutes of my time. And it's like, there's so many companies like that just like, you're going to do all this other work and then you're going to cheap out when it matters most. And that's like, that's not even an expense. Like we're not even getting to like building the right materials. That's just like being lazy and not thinking through your customer journey.
Correct. And I think at the end of the day, if you think about the KPIs or goals, marketing, or used to be the marketing teams recently, especially in SaaS, used to be very focused on acquisition. To your point, I need to acquire customers and put the run of customer or leads at the top of the funnel. But you think about it, the retention and the customer experience is way more important. You need to create, again, I'm stating the obvious, but you need to create fans. And customer experience is key. And I think we have not helped ourselves with some of the KPIs we're looking at, like revenue, of course. Revenue matters, conversion matters, but you need to think more artistic KPI, like customer experience satisfaction, because they do matter a lot. And we see it in our surveys.
Yeah, obviously with renovations, it's an investment, just like your marketing is an investment. How do you think about measuring ROI? I know for me, with a home, what's so funny is I don't know if you've ever said the word ROI in your renovation, where you're like, but I know for a fact the ROI of that stupid pocket door drive me crazy. This cheap pocket door, I'm like, it never should have bought I didn't even choose it, But see, that's the thing. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but it was one of the things that I had a fantastic contractor. And they had a bias towards things that were affordable, which is great when you have a contractor that's like that. But there's certain things that you just don't want to go with the cheaper version. And it's like, they didn't ask me what type of pocket door. I didn't even think, to even ask them or whatever. And now I have this super flimsy pocket door that barely works. And that's isn't that the epitome of it? Of it's not even something I had to, I felt like I didn't even need to verbalize it. And yet now it's messed up. And now it's like, well, what's the ROI of having a bad pocket door? It's like, well, it's not the end of the world. It's really not. But none of it is the end of the world. But it's super annoying.
No, it's a great question. I think I would say for this house, as I said, it's a family house. I was very clear about I want to keep it a long time. I hope it's going to stay in my family for a very long time. Hopefully my sons will keep it and maybe their sons. So I said, I'm going to invest in the long term. So I was pretty clear. I don't want to do anything cheap. It has to stay. I don't want to come back, in 5 years to redo something. So I want to, and so that's what I did. I was very clear. So the ROI was very not financial. It's probably a bad investment. If I look at the house, I had to resell it tomorrow on the market, probably between how much I bought it, all the expenses I put in it. I don't know if I would make any money, but that's not the goal. I have other projects where, so the ROI was not financial, as I said. And I think, as you said, one of my trick, which was in marketing too, you ask people, contractors, what would you do if it was your house? What product would you use? And usually you get, and if you ask, it's like coaching technique, but if you ask the same marketing or consultancy, if it were your company or your brand, would you run this campaign or what would you do? If you ask a question, usually you get very different answers when you ask the contractors or some marketers. If you were in my shoes, what would you do? That's been my trick to get some good advice sometimes.
I love that. Yeah, one of the other ones, as we're sharing contractor stories, that was very illuminating to me was we just did this expansion for the studio that I'm in now. And there was it was an empty garage, and then we made it a room. And the roof, so we had to put in like roofing materials, insulation. And basically I was like, I don't want fiberglass insulation because like I have a baby or I have a pregnant wife and I'm going to have a baby. I have a 4-year-old. I don't want like fiberglass all over my house because I know that's going to happen. And so we bought this like really, really expensive, it's basically like for like industrial grade stuff. And it has like no off gassing and anyways, really nice stuff. And there was a bunch of it left over. And the contractor's like, hey, this is like really expensive stuff. What do you want me to do with it? And I was like, just put it up there. Like put the rest of it up there. Like it gets 110 degrees in the summer. Like just put it up there. He's like, it's a lot of money. So it turns out that the difference between the fiberglass and this was $180 total.
What's the point?
And I'm like, what are we arguing about? But it's the sort of thing I'm like, it's going to save me that much in heating and cooling costs in like a month, like just do it.
So what's the point?
It's like, those are the type of things that I think like when you look at the ROI of your customer experience, where you're like, we spend so much money and effort on our sales and marketing, on our go-to-market to like let things fall through the crack in your customer experience is so silly. It's like such a silly thing to be like, what could we do to make whatever launch 10 days earlier or just 1 day earlier, 1% better, whatever it is. What can we do to save them a click? Obviously Amazon obsessing over that. So yeah, it's just thinking through those things. And when someone says expensive, that's not, that word doesn't really tell you anything, right? And, ROI, like, it's return on investment. It's like, well, returns aren't just cash on cash, right? You're not selling your house anytime in the next 50 years, hopefully, or more for the next 250.
No,
so it's like, who cares? Go put the super nice oven in.
Yeah,
I'm saying go put the oven in. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll do it one day soon. It's coming. But, no, you said it well. And I think it's funny when I listen to you, you're so right. I think the house is a bit the same. You have CapEx and OpEx.
Yep.
And the question is like, hey, that's basically what you said. You said, I'm going to invest more in materials or heating or the glass because it's going to be more CapEx initially, but then it's going to save me OpEx. And I think as you said, on the market side, you need to think the CapEx a little bit, your investment is your brand and customer experience. So that's not how we measure it, but we should have a CapEx for brand and customer experience. That's a long-term investment.
Yeah, that's a great framing. It's so true. And it's like, that's the sort of stuff that, that makes a huge deal. We talked about sort of your farmhouse has survived for 250 years. You want it to be in the family for another 250 years, hopefully. So what are you doing at Contentsquare to build something that lasts, build something enduring?
Yeah. I would say we have, the farmhouse of stone walls, you remember, 3 feet wide stone wall. I think at Contentsquare we're building, stone solid data stack. I don't know if that makes sense.
I like that.
We collect, and I worked on it before, stone solid data stack, but we We collect data, 1.3 million websites through Hotjar brand, 3,000 enterprise brand. And so this data, now is really the infrastructure, the foundation of everything we do to power our AI. Yes, we have to talk about AI. We haven't talked about AI yet. We are building AI agent and analysts, who are helping us now analyze this data and make sense, make recommendation. And you don't need to have dozens of analysts combing through data to deliver insights and recommendation. And I think that's what we are doing, building this data foundation, and then on top of it, overlaying the AI. And we launched our first agent last week. It's called Sense, but that's what it really does. It makes sense of all this data and you move faster from data to insights to action and recommendation to improve your customer experience. And that's what we are doing. So yes, data and AI are really how we're building the foundations for Contentsquare.
Well, I got to say, as someone who is a Hotjar customer, it's on caspianstudios.com right now. That's exciting. Yeah, one of the things that I am curious about, like, as I mentioned, must have been very, very early days, because I think Hotjar specifically was founded in like 2014. So I think I was using it in 2015, probably.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I need to get you on the newest release. We are just releasing a new release in beta with AI and so on.
Nice.
An analyst, I need to make sure you're on it.
Yeah, I know for a fact I was using it in 2016 because I did a conference in 2016, and I know we used it for my conference. But I'm pretty sure I was using it in 2015 for a company that I was at. Anyways, but I remember seeing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is like information is so helpful to know. And what's so helpful, obviously, is, like I pull it up right now. Here, question, Meredith, what do you think is the most clicked on header on caspianstudios.com?
The most clicked on header.
Yeah.
I have to go look.
Yeah, you got it. I can tell you.
Then you pull your Hotjar session now?
Yeah, I'm on it right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
As in like fiction and animation? I feel like
on the masthead.
I'm gonna go.
Oh.
So there's services, plans, customers, podcasts, company, resources, and then the let's chat button.
Podcast. I would bet on podcasts.
I would bet on services.
It's podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So this is a podcast, then plans, then meet the team, then our team, then customers.
Many of those.
It shows maybe it's more that shows how you buy, Meredith. It's not an indictment, but this is what's so crazy. So anyways, the reason why I say this is like, it's that sort of magical customer experience where like you're learning something you didn't know by yourself. Obviously that's the product. But I think that one thing that's interesting for brands like Hotjar, which have now been around a decade plus, and obviously Contentsquare, you have more than just that, but you have this like try it again for the first time thing where so many people who have used this over the years, like why it's so important to get that back out, get that message out in front of people is to say like, that you have a new agent, that you have all these things is like so many people in marketing have used all these different tools over the years. And they just might be at a company where they haven't, whatever. And it's sort of like the French Farmhouse, it's like, hey, this is modern now. This is half modern. It's still the same thing that you loved before, but now it's got these, modern pieces.
Exactly. And I need you to make sure you use Sense the agent very soon, because Sense now can tell you, hey, here's how you improve your engagement or your purchase rate. So it's going to do an analysis for you, not just the data. It's going to give you a recommendation and action. So that's what it does for you. You have an analyst in your pocket.
Amazing.
Or in your phone.
Yeah, that's so cool. I gotta check it out. JC, any as we start winding down here, any just thoughts on how CMOs should think about investing in content and investing in brand?
You talk, is it the word authenticity last? Going back to the Farmhouse, shiny trends, they go away, they fade very quickly. So I think when you invest in your brand, you invest in content, authenticity, being true to yourself is probably where I will go. and it's hard, especially in the tech business. There are so many trendy stuff happening every day, new cool tech. And I think you need to blend both the old and the new, but stay authentic. Don't always follow the shiny trends, but don't get consumed by the shiny trends. I don't know. It's very high level, but that's how I think about it. When I joined Contentsquare, it was I worked a lot on modernizing the market and making it more professional, but still there was some very cool stuff. Contentsquare has a unique culture, the event. We have this event. I can talk about it. When I joined Content, we have Enterprise Fund. As you said, you're a fan of Agile, and it's a B2B product. Contentsquare has enterprise customers who are fans of the products. That's something unique. You don't see often, people who are fans of an enterprise product. And so when but seriously, when I joined, I said, well, this company did something unique, Agile, and I hear the passion of Contentsquare and how they engage with our customers. And we have very cool live events and with DJs and dancers. Of course, there are conferences and keynotes, but there are very cool stuff. And it creates this very warm brand. And so I said, I need to keep it. That's great. But then I need to professionalize all the stuff. So it's really it's like the Farmhouse. You blend the old and the new, keep the authentic and modernize it. So that's how I think about it.
I love it. JC, anything else exciting coming up at Contentsquare?
As I said, Sense, our analyst, the work of a junior analyst for you in a couple of clicks. It's going to revolution. I think it's going to disrupt analytics in a big way. Probably the biggest one in the last 10 years. I'm not saying that because everyone talks about AI, but it's going to be a revolution. So yeah, use Sense, try Sense, our agent, and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, and you can just go to Contentsquare and just click on Sense right there on the website.
Yes.
Awesome. Any final thoughts? Anything to plug? Obviously, our listeners can go to contentsquare.com and definitely go check out Sense. But yeah, anything else?
No, it was a great discussion. I love the parallel between the Farmhouse and marketing. So stay curious, I would say. I think I know. Stay curious as human beings, learners. Yeah, I think marketing, renovation, restoration, it's a blend of art and science. That's when I love it, by the way. I think we keep working on both the art and the science pillars.
I love it. Awesome. JC, we really appreciate it, and we'll talk soon. Well, that's it for today. I hope you got some good ideas for your B2B content. Thank you for listening to Remarkable. I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. Remarkable is created by the team at Caspian Studios, B2B podcast as a service. Caspian also creates fiction series for B2B companies, so if you want a business thriller, you can learn more at caspianstudios.com. Hollywood-style storytelling for B2B. And in today's episode, you heard from myself, Ian Faison, and Meredith O'Neill, senior producer here at Caspian Studios. Remarkable was produced this week by Meredith O'Neill, mixed by Scott Goodrich, and our theme song is Solomon by Falak. Be remarkable and rise above the noise.